Well, thank you for joining me today. This is the second webcast we're doing. If you have any questions about anything, just feel free to type it into the chat window and I can take those in order and answer them before the energy transfer. We'll probably be doing the energy transfer in about 20 minutes or so into the call. So we have a little time if you had anything that you wanted to ask, whether it's about the energy transfer or if it's about anything in particular. If you watch my show and a lot of the things that we're doing here in our organization, we're involved with a lot of amazing things going on in the world and a lot of incredible people. So I have access to a lot of information on many things. So if you have any questions about any of that, feel free to enter them here on the chat. So how many of you, if you're new to this energy transfer, you've never participated at all, can you just type into the chat that you're new, and I can at least get an idea how many people I need to, if I need to share any background, how it works, or if you're all veterans of the experience. Okay, so I see we have one new person here, and so the energy transfer, I've been doing this for a number of years intentionally, and it's something that I came to realize in recent years that it's been something that's been happening around this physical body since birth. So it's not something new, but I don't have a lot of time in the span of this call to get into my story. If you're interested in more about how that came about and why I ended up doing this work, then you can just search my name, Ethann Fox Energy Transfer on YouTube, and there are a number of videos there, or just go to my website, ethannfox.com, and click on Energy Transfer, and you can learn more about that, and there are some videos there as well. So that'll give you a better idea of the background, but what I can share a little bit today is how it works for those of you who are new, and how to participate, so you can be familiar with that. The main purpose of this call is to answer any of your questions about anything consciousness or world events or things like that, and also to facilitate this process for you. So first of all, I want to explain that I don't consider myself a healer. There are many people who are on the planet who are here to heal physical health issues, and who are very talented in that particular area. I'm here specifically to help awaken individuals such as yourselves, people who are here to be light workers on the planet, to help to move the obstacles from your way, from your path, so that you can live the life you came here to live and fulfill your life mission and help to raise the consciousness of the planet. So that's my primary goal. Now, in so doing, you may have physical health changes as well and other things that will come about as a side effect of that. But that's not really primarily my focus. And if you're on this call, chances are you have some purpose in the awakening of consciousness. So what's different about the work that I do is, so we'll be doing what I call an energy transfer today. And as I said, I've been doing this for a number of years in my local area with groups of people, as well as on webcasts and telesummits, and I also have a number of people in our advanced program who sign up for up to 12 energy transfers per month in a remote session. And those students are some of the more advanced students who are more serious about moving at a more accelerated pace. If you are more energy sensitive, or if you're brand new to the experience, you'll be able to see today what it's like. But some people are very energy sensitive, and in that case, a more accelerated approach may not be appropriate. So this is an opportunity for you to move along your path a little faster than you can using other methods. So the energy transfer, what we'll be doing is, I'll be in a few minutes, I'll be using an energy to raise your consciousness and your vibration. And it's already started in the background because the energy is being channeled through this physical body. It's always being used for that purpose wherever I go, regardless of my intention to do that consciously. And I only came to realize that in recent years. But in events like this, where people attend with the intention of raising their consciousness and removing the density, during the actual time that we do the energy transfer, the intensity is a little greater because you're here to accelerate your awakening faster than the average person who I may run into in my day-to-day life. So this process is going to be a little bit more intense for you in a few minutes, but you may, if you're sensitive to energy, you may already be feeling it. So part of it is to raise your vibration and consciousness. We'll also make a slight adjustment to your multidimensional genetics. So when I use that term, if you're unfamiliar, you can think of it as your body has multidimensional aspects to it. There's one dimension that is perceiving through your five senses. And so you can hear me, see me, and you're in your physical environment there. And you have certain physical perceptions that come from your three-dimensional experience. But your actual being is multi-dimension. So you're existing on many dimensions simultaneously, and you're bringing in information from all of those dimensions at the same time into your human three-dimensional experience. Now, to the extent that you are more conscious and more sensitive, like a lot of children being born today are highly gifted and highly sensitive, in particular autistic children and children with Asperger's and things like that. They're so far to the extreme of sensitivity that they pick up so much more information from their multidimensional environment and their three-dimensional environment that they get a little overwhelmed and overloaded. So, but to some degree, everybody on this call is at a different level of that sensitivity. But nonetheless, whether you're conscious of it or not, you are to some degree receiving information from many dimensions. So when we do the energy transfer, one of the things that's going to happen is we're going to make a slight adjustment to your multidimensional genetics, which will allow you to tune into a different level of information than you were before in this field of information that you're surrounded by, which means that it can change many things, health being one of them, because part of whatever health condition somebody may have is a result of tuning into a certain frequency of information in the multidimensional field of information that is around us at all times. And when you adjust that frequency, then your physical body may no longer tune into the information that was relevant to the health issue. So many people do come to my events with health issues and will leave without them because of that reason. But again, like I said, the main purpose here is to change your awareness and also to help you to function in a better way and utilizing more of your multidimensional awareness. So I have a question here from Tracy. After an energy transfer, is it common to experience nightmares or disrupted sleep? I've experienced this after my first energy transfer. Well, the nightmares wouldn't be typical. Disrupted sleep. Sometimes I have a few people, if it's your first time doing energy transfer, and this doesn't happen very often, but there are a few people who have shared that they have so much energy they couldn't sleep for a few days, but it wasn't a negative experience. Nightmares, I've never had that happen before. It's probably unrelated to the energy transfer directly, but what could be happening is that the adjustment we made to your genetics is allowing you to tune into other information that's there. So during the energy transfer, just focus on what that is and the density behind that and send that to me in that process. And some people, it just takes a little bit longer than others because, see, everybody is carrying a different amount of density in you. And what we're doing in this energy transfer is all of that density that you're carrying has settled in your energy body, and we're stirring it up a little bit, and then we're taking out a great deal of it. But in the process, it's possible you may have some symptoms of things like that, but it's all a good thing because at the end of the day, you're actually carrying less with you and your life will become lighter. So now I've never had anyone report nightmares, but sometimes lack of sleep. But the opposite can happen too. See, everybody's physical body and their multidimensional body is unique as you are physically different from everybody else. And so each of you is carrying a different amount of density. Some of you have brought into this life an immense amount of karmic density from past life experiences, parallel life experiences, or even childhood traumas, things like that. And as a result, you may take longer to work through that than somebody else who is farther along the path or who just hasn't brought a lot of density into this life. So the one with more density, we can't really remove that all in one session. Well, we certainly could, but the problem is your adjustment after doing that would be too severe and you would have a hard time doing that. So chances are what happened in your case is that you probably carried, when I find that people have nightmares, it's usually because they have an immense amount of density that they brought into this life. And so probably what happened is we took a lot of that away, and so now some things have come to the surface. And I would suggest just keeping with this as much as you can. If you feel it's appropriate and you feel that you're able to handle more, then I would suggest considering the advanced program or coming to one of my physical events, which currently are only in Michigan in the United States, but I will be doing more elsewhere as well. If you'd like me to come to your area, even just reach out to us and we can plan events in your area as well. But more is probably a good idea. And in so doing, that density gets removed and the nightmares will go away from that. So it's not from the energy transfer itself. It could be the result of starting to remove an immense amount of density that you brought into this life. If I don't have time to get into the story in depth, but one of my earliest conscious awarenesses of doing this or being able to do this work was somebody who had a nightmare experience, actually, and the nightmare was removed. It was a lifelong nightmare that she had, a reoccurring nightmare. And that nightmare went away after one energy transfer experience. And so what that suggests was there was some kind of a trauma that this soul brought into this life. And that trauma was something that she was not able to get rid of on her own very easily. Certainly, maybe over a lifetime or lifetime, she could have done that. But in passing that over to me, she was able to remove it, and whatever vibrational density and experience that was attached to that was also removed. So I would say just keep with it and see where that takes you. Next question is from Stefan. And would this also work if it was recorded and I'll be watching the session over and over again? Yes. Now, first of all, the energy of the energy transfer, that consciousness is not me. It's not, well, this physical body functions during the energy transfer as part of a collective consciousness of beings and higher consciousness that facilitates this. So this is why it's happening all the time wherever I go without me consciously having to do anything about it. But and so for that reason, that vibration is present in my voice. It's present in photographs of me. It's present in recordings, video or audio. So it is there. Now, what I will tell you is there is a difference between the energy transfers that I do on a webcast and the energy transfers that are recorded and the energy transfers at my events or in one-on-one sessions or the advanced program, just because the intention of each program is different or each event is different. Those in my advanced program are there because they have decided that they're serious about moving at a much more rapid pace. So some people who've been in that program for many years have accelerated quite a ways in their journey. So there is a difference, but yes, it's present in the recording. And certainly I've got recordings. You can search my name, Ethann Fox Energy Transfer on YouTube. You'll find previous events that I've done where the energy transfer portion was also recorded. and you'll see from the comments in the video that people have been watching that from all over the world, and they're experiencing similar things to what's taking place with the audience there. So you can use the recording as well, and you can also watch the YouTube videos and get the same experience. So yes, it's present there. Okay, so next question is, I just signed up for a 1-month experience, and I've also had much greater joy and happiness during my waking hours. Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Tracy. And yes, that's, so there are many effects of this, but one of the most common things I hear is a higher state of joy. And reason is, so we're not only raising your vibration and consciousness, but we're also removing that density. So karmic density, which tends to weigh down our human experience. So two people with, let's say we have the same person, one with a lot of karmic density and one without very much. The one without very much can go through the very same life and not really have as much of a difficulty. They can even go through adverse situations and experience it with more joy and more lightheartedness than somebody with a lot of density. So if you see a lot of people around you who are suffering, or if you're one of those people who suffers a lot in your life, that's to a great extent, it's the result of karmic density that could be from other lives, or it could even be from emotional traumas from this life. So those things, when we remove the energy from it, the experience may still be there, but the density, once it's removed, the experience ceases to be so traumatic, and it eventually just becomes something that happened that you really have no energetic attachment to, and even can switch your conscious timeline awareness of it to where it may even not be part of your memory anymore. So in doing this type of a process, you can remove those things and ultimately increase your joy in your life. Okay, so can this remove family curses and dark entities? Yes, certainly. And I hear that a lot from people. First of all, I want you, for those of you who are new, don't be afraid to send me that density, even if it's a family curse or attachments. I've been doing these events, as I said, people all over the world are sending me density all day long, every day, and even through videos I have posted on YouTube or on calls such as this, or telesummits, or recordings of my events that I've done previously, or my advanced program. So this happens all day, and I do a monthly global event where I include the whole collective consciousness. So we're talking about an immense amount of density. And people do send me curses and all kinds of dense entity attachments, and it's perfectly all right. So this physical body, most people in the healing fields, which is why I don't consider myself a healer, one of the reasons, are very concerned about protecting themselves from things like this, whereas I came into this incarnation specifically prepared physically, spiritually, for this purpose, and this body was prepared for this purpose. So if you send that to me, then you will no longer have to carry that, and it won't be something that weighs me down either, because it will essentially disintegrate or be transformed into something else as it comes to my energy field. So yes, and I've had a lot of people call on live calls in the past who had entity attachments, and those were taken away afterwards. So certainly do that, and if it doesn't work the first time for all of the attachments at once, keep coming back until it does, because it does work and it is very effective, and we've been able to see that over many years of doing this. Okay, so good. Some very good questions there. If any other questions, feel free to type those in, and I'll be happy to take them. So let me explain how the energy transfer works for those of you who are new, and then if there are any questions that come up, we have a few minutes to discuss those afterward. So the energy transfer is a two-part process, and I will be sending an energy, and if you are visual or energy sensitive, you may see or feel that energy. And everybody's different because, as I said, you are all connected differently. You're all your density is all different, as unique as you are to each other physically. Your vibrational bodies are quite different too. So you will all experience this differently. If you're highly energy sensitive, you may feel it as vibration or a temperature change, either hot or cold. Others may experience a heaviness in their head. Some will experience states of bliss. It's all fine. There's no specific type of sensation you're looking to have. And even if you have nothing, we've had events here in my local area, and I have a very well-known aura reader who assists me at my local events, and she can see the energy moving around the room. And even people who are not at all energy sensitive, we can see that their auras have increased in many times over. That's another side effect that we've observed over the years is your energy field will at least double, triple, quadruple many times in just one energy transfer session, and it's a cumulative effect. So the people who have been coming to our events month after month, their auras have become so large that they're larger than the room as they're walking in. And we've been able to observe that because my good friend Barb, who helps me at these events, is there to observe that. Whereas most people, she says, who are brand new to the event, with rare exceptions, usually have very, very small energy fields. So we know the effects are cumulative. And so that's one side effect benefit. And when your energy field is larger, you also have a natural sort of cushion between you and your environment and other energetic influences and people. So for those of you who are ordinarily energy sensitive or you're healers, it makes it so you don't really have to worry about protection so much because that is already sort of there. You shouldn't try to do what I do, of course, but for everyday types of life experiences, you'll find that will be there. Okay, question here. Am I aware of others who came in with gifts such as mine? You're the first I've met. I find this to be interesting. I wonder that sometimes higher dimensions of everyone will have this gift. Well, okay, I do get asked that. And actually, if you're unaware of the work that I do, I'm blessed to have a lot of very gifted, talented people around me. And because of my show and our expo and everything else we do, from children to adult, we have some incredibly talented people. So I'm aware of a lot of things that are happening in the world and the people who are doing it, and also have the advantage of having access to some of the most gifted intuitives and channels that are out there. To work with them and the things that we're doing. And so I've had an opportunity. And if you want to search or just go to my website and click on the energy transfer tab, there are some videos there where I work with intuitive channel Michaela Sheldon, who allows me to speak to this collective consciousness that facilitates this process. So if you want to know more in depth about why I came to do this and who this collective consciousness is, and my genetic lineage that led me here to do this work, all of that is there. And I did ask them that question, actually, because I was curious if anybody else is doing this. And they told me when I asked them that, and this was a couple of years ago, that at the time that there were about 5 people in the world right now in this current linear timeline that had the capability to do something similar, but that none of them were actually doing it yet to the degree that I was, and that several of them were still very young children, so they were not actually old enough to be out in the world doing it. So there will be a few more in the future. The reason is this is not really a modality that, at least from what they've told me, that I'm meant to teach, because I came into this world specifically. I was prepared through many lifetimes of experience. My soul was prepared, my energy body was prepared, my physical body was prepared in order to be able to do this, because taking on the density of so many people, of the whole collective consciousness, is not something that anybody who didn't come into this incarnation with that intention and with the preparation to do, should be doing, because otherwise you can cause a lot of harm to your own energy field and your own human experience. So for that reason, it's something that if somebody was going to do that they would come into this incarnation with that preparation already in place, not something that they would learn later on in life. It's possible that it would be activated later on in life, where they became aware of those abilities, but it's not likely to be something that's going to be on a mass level anytime soon, although there are obviously a handful of people in the world who are going to be doing similar things on different scales of effect. I don't currently know of anybody in the world who, assuming that there are 5 of them out there who can do it, I don't know anybody in the world who is doing it on the scale that I'm currently doing it. But it'll be interesting if anybody does. So thank you for bringing that question up, though. Well, certainly what I can say, though, in terms of gifts, there are a lot of people that are awakening to amazing gifts. That's one of the things that will happen to many of you from the energy transfer as well, especially if you follow this process long enough. Everybody's different. Some people, after one session, their gifts will start to open up. Others, it may take a little bit longer. But a lot of people are starting to awaken to their spiritual gifts. And I know this because this is the world that I live in now. I'm almost entirely surrounded by amazing people in all these different areas. And there's so much awakening happening, and the children being born into the world today are incredibly gifted. So you are going to see a lot of incredible healers coming out into the world. Many children nowadays are fully telepathic, telekinetic. There's a gentleman who lives nearby me who is a telekinetic. So there are amazing gifts happening. Now, my work is primarily, and this collective consciousness, when in the video that if you watch it, I asked them about the work that I'm doing, and they referred to me as a light worker of light workers, meaning I'm here to awaken other light workers to their path. So you are here as light workers for me to help you to find your way to following your life purpose and mission. And for that reason, the work I'm doing is something that I came here prepared to do, to be able to work with amazing people like you. Okay, Andrea. I was told before I'm psychic and a hybrid and a genetic and evolutionary mutation. Will this help me know who I am and what I came here to do? Yes, certainly. Now, there are 2 things I want to say. And because I've been doing this for a number of years intentionally, the last many years, and the organization that I run here and the team that we have who help us run it, what I can tell you is everyone who's been on my team for any length of time, their spiritual gifts start to open up, and they start being able to do things they either didn't even know they could do or have been long dormant since childhood. Most children are born with incredible gifts, but our societal conditioning shuts those things down. But I can tell you that people who have worked closely with me over the years, those gifts will just naturally open up in them. So that's one thing. So yes, if you do this, and it's different for everybody, it may happen just today, or it may happen next month, or if you join one of the advanced programs or practice more diligently using my online videos, then it will happen faster. But the other part is you have to get out there and do something with it. You have to, so I find a lot of people, their gifts do open up, but then they don't really know how to take that out into the world and do something substantial with it. So that's where you have to function. See, if you came into this world with those gifts and you are aware of your multidimensionality, now everybody is multidimensional, right? But not everybody's aware of it. Not everybody is as equally multidimensionally connected and aware as everybody else. You obviously are more than most. So the key is the problem or the challenge a lot of times with those who are so multidimensionally aware is that they have a hard time functioning in the third dimension and bringing that multidimensionality into tangible expression here. So you have to take three-dimensional steps. It's not enough just to become aware of your gifts, which will certainly happen through this process, but you have to then train yourself, and you have to take the physical steps to go out into the world and do something with it. If you find that that's something you'd like help with, I certainly do work with a lot of light workers such as yourselves to help you to develop your talents and to create opportunities to express them in the three-dimensional world. And people like Michaela Sheldon and others you'll see who have been in my light worker program over the years, you'll start seeing them being introduced out into the world over the years as I tend to work with them to do that. So you want to do both, and the challenge a lot of times for people who are as gifted as you, and even especially a lot of the children being born today, they are so multidimensionally aware that they have an incredibly hard time functioning in this three-dimensional world, and they need a little extra help to be able to bring all of that down into material reality. So it's a two-part process, and I hope that was helpful to answer your question. Okay, so we have lots of questions today. All right, so let's see what we got. Majority here are female, yes, and that is pretty common, actually. It just so happens that women are still, although it's becoming less prevalent, women are still more awakening faster than men. And it's just the feminine aspect of women tends to give them that advantage. But that's going to change. As the collective consciousness continues to accelerate in its evolution, more and more men are going to do that as well. But even at our physical events and our expos and everything else we do, people who watch my show, primarily it's women. Men tend to be more focused still very much intellectually and into those kinds of subject areas. But that's changing. So just be patient for the men to catch up, and there are many, many more coming down the line, and quite a few of them I've worked with over the years, and I can tell you that is something that's changing. Okay, so we have another question here regarding karma. Do you believe we come into this life with one or two major karmic lessons in a specific area, such as physical health, finances, relationships, for example? And if so, how can we break patterns we are running in these areas to resolve them, and how will the energy transfer process help? Okay, one or two major karmic lessons. We are all unique in terms of our karmic density that we bring into this life. And I want to first separate, because I think for those of you who have been part of this spiritual conversation most of your lives, and you hear the word karma, you have a certain perception of what that is. And I want to explain what I mean when I use the word karma, so that you understand what I'm saying. When I say karma, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad experience. Karma is, when I use that term, it's an experience that you've had in the past or in some other dimensional reality that is not this third dimensional one where we're having this linear conversation right now in this linear time. So karma could have come from a past life or a parallel life or a life that you're having right now in some other dimension. And karma could be, as the question was posed, karma could be, let's say, a health issue from a past life. It could have been that in a past life you experienced some kind of a difficult health issue or some kind of physical trauma to the body. And that physical trauma to the body will carry as two things. One is karma, which is the experience of the trauma. And two, which is the density, which is the energetic weight of the karma, of the experience. So they're two different things that work together as one. So when I say karma, I'm referring to both of those things. So if we take that karmic experience and we remove the density from it, it just, it could still be a memory, but without the density to weigh you down. So for example, let's say that you had a traumatic childhood and a lot of hostile or difficult things happen in your childhood, and so now you have karma from childhood. The karma is the result of experiences that happened, and the density and dense emotional and psychological spiritual energy that got attached to that experience. If you remove that energy, the density of the energy, the experience may still be there, but it has no longer any charge. It has no power over you. It has no weight or effect in your life. It just is something that happened to someone, and it may not even seem like your life. And as time goes on, in a timeline sense, you will have shifted to a timeline of awareness where that experience may not even be in your memory anymore or be very dominant because it no longer has any kind of a density. So now people come into life with different kinds of karmic lessons, and yes, quite often there's one or two very significant ones. Usually there's one very significant one, I find, but it could be more than one. And those karmic lessons are the things that weigh you down from your evolution and your growth. Now, the answer to this question is much more complex, how to move beyond that. But what I can say is the energy transfer, how that will help is it will remove that density that's attached to the karma. So now you have only the memory of the experience that happened, but no weight to it. And so it eventually just becomes somebody else's life that you have some faint recollection of, but it has no identity in this current one. And so any health problems or relationship problems or other issues you're having in this life will diminish. So let's talk about relationship karma. Let's say you had a past life with somebody and it was a very traumatic relationship. So now you have the memory, whether it's conscious or not, of that experience, and you have the density of the trauma. If we remove the density of the trauma, then all that remains is that person and that soul. So if you meet that soul again in this life and you're having a traumatic relationship again with them, when the density isn't there, then all that's left is the relationship. And you can have a harmonious relationship with them at that point, or you may find that there's nothing else left with that person that you need to experience, and you'll move on to another relationship. So quite often with difficult relationships, it's the density that keeps the relationship together. Once the density is gone, the relationship ceases to be necessary for your growth, and you'll just very harmoniously be able to release it. So, but the energy transfer will help in the density, and then the rest of it will just easily move on its own once the density isn't there holding you back. Question from Christina. I'm surrounded by orbs, hundreds of them. Why? And I don't know, Christina, are you saying that's now during the energy transfer or just all the time? But I can speak to the question in general because I've known a lot of people over the years and actually worked, all the time. I've worked with somebody in my Lightworker program actually who that gift came to her as a result of energy transfers, and she started seeing orbs everywhere and in very detail. And now you're basically tuning into something that is there. See, in this field of energy that's around me. Now, you're all using your eyes to see this room that I'm sitting in, and you're all in your own individual places, and you are perceiving that place through your physical eyes. Now, some of you such as the person posting this question, are very aware of other dimensions that coexist in that reality. So, for example, in your case, Christina, I believe it was, what's happening is you have this perception and ability to tune into one of the layers of dimensional energy that's present, that all of us are experiencing but can't see. It's like if everybody has a different mobile phone and somebody calls one of you, everybody's phone doesn't ring because every phone is tuned into a slightly different dimension of that experience, of that energy, of information that's around us all the time. And so in a similar way, you are able to tune into one layer of information. Those orbs are around all of us, but we are not all able to see it. You just have that ability. Now, why do you do that? Probably, and this is from my experience working with people like you who have those kinds of gifts, you have that experience because you're supposed to do something with it. Now, maybe you're going to develop some kind of unique modality from that, or healing modality, or teach something because of that awareness. I would say you need to tap into that further and develop it further and see what's the practical use that you can bring it to the third dimension to benefit the rest of the people of the world with that ability, because you're seeing and tuning into something that the rest of us are not able to do. And there must be a purpose for that ability existing. So now the next step comes to bring that into three-dimensional, tangible purpose and use in this world, and follow that mission that you've been given to help other people with it. But it's not completely unusual. I've known many people who have that ability, but not a lot of people. So obviously, that's something very special about you. Okay, so what are the wrong beliefs regarding relationship with gods? Wrong beliefs regarding relationship with gods. Well, that's a very big topic, actually. What I can say is, now, this is a combination of speaking with many experts in many fields, including lots of very gifted children today. I can tell you that if you're referring to gods, such as in India, there are many gods and there are many religious and spiritual beliefs. And even in our ancient world, there are many gods. And even in many religions today, there are many gods. So the majority of those many gods in other religions from ancient times, as it's turning out, and this is from archaeological research and all kinds of other things, and ancient writings and Sanskrit texts and so on, including the experience of some of the very perceptive, incredibly gifted children coming into the world today, it seems that those gods were probably some kind of other dimensional being or extraterrestrial being that had a physical incarnation on Earth at some point. They were gods in the sense that they were more, in many cases, not in every case, but in many cases, those gods were beings who were more highly conscious than human beings at that time. They possessed gifts and abilities that most human beings did not have. Many of them were much taller than human beings. And if you look at a lot of the ancient archaeology around the world, you'll find that a lot of these gods are pictured in very similar ways in very disconnected parts of the world. So the beliefs, I wouldn't say wrong. I mean, there's no real right or wrong in our human experience. It's our human tendency to say something is wrong or right. Every person is having their own experience. So if someone wants to believe in a particular type of God, then that is perfectly all right for them at their current level of evolution. Eventually, what happens as your consciousness continues to awaken is that you reach a place where you don't really need or perceive of a physical being as a god. You don't even really perceive of a god as a god. You just simply have a connection to a higher awareness of the collective consciousness. And it's not a physical thing. It's not a tangible thing. It's not something that you can really call a god. The word god has been a bit misused over the years. But, and most religions that use God as a tool, it's mostly to maintain a certain level of control over their population through this physical representation of a god. But I can tell you that as it's turning out, most of those gods that people have worshipped for millennia are turning out to be just very advanced beings. I mean, if you consider in another couple hundred years, human beings will be very advanced at that level as well. And we could very well appear as gods to other less developed beings at that time, if we were to travel to other planets with more indigenous, primitive, less developed beings. So this is what many of the gods of our history are turning out to be. There is no need to have an attachment to a physical god-like being. God is, or what you will eventually become, perceive of God will be as a all-encompassing awareness of everything, a connectedness to everything. The macrocosm of the microcosm, just like if you are familiar with fractals and how each fractal is an infinitely small yet yet the same representation as its larger. This is what God is. And if you look at the solar system versus an atom, they're both similar in composition. And so in a way, you are God. You are an expression of God. And you have that capability in your own incarnation as well. So I hope that it explains that a little bit. It's a very deep topic and certainly something that would require a lot more conversation, but hopefully I got you a little bit of time to, or a little bit of thought into that. If I am God, why don't I remember God in amnesia? I'm guessing your question is, why don't you remember that you are God? At least I'm perceiving the question is, if you are God, then why are you not aware of that? Well, you came into this human experience in order to have a human experience. And if you came into this human experience with full awareness that you are God, of conscious awareness of that, then you would not really have much of a human experience, would you? So if now, that being said, as a collective, we are moving closer and closer to that awareness. And as we do that, the whole collective consciousness is evolving to where we are becoming more and more aware of who we are. So a lot of the kids being born today come into this incarnation with a greater awareness of their past lives or parallel lives or their gifts and abilities. The reason you're not aware is because you came into this life to have a particular human experience in order to grow as a soul. So if you knew all that there was, and if you came into this incarnation in full awareness of being God, then it wouldn't be possible for you to have the human experience that you chose to have for whatever reason that may be. And so for that reason, that's there. Now, that being said, there is what I would say, barrier or resistance that exists between our third dimension and source. So I wouldn't use the word God. I would use more like source. Source is an infinite place where all things exist and all things, there's infinite everything. So infinite joy, infinite love, infinite energy. In Source, you don't have to pay for fuel to drive your car somewhere. And in Source, you don't have to work a certain number of hours to earn enough money to pay your bills, to buy food, and so on. In Source, all things are infinite. But in this three-dimensional world, we have a separation or a resistance between us and Source. And that resistance filters the energy of Source so that we don't have full access to the wholeness of that Source, or if you want to call it God. And that's why we live in a society where we have limits and restrictions on our full expression and becoming the wholeness of who we are. Now, everybody's different, and everybody's different because each of you has a different level of resistance to Source. The energy transfer is going to help you with that. That's one of the main reasons why I do this work. And when we remove that density, and the more often you do this, that veil or resistance that you have between you and Source becomes thinner and thinner. And over time, your connection to this Source becomes stronger and stronger, so you will start, that's why your spiritual gifts will start to open up. This is why you will start finding your own path through life, and you will become aware of the God in you more and more as you get closer to Source. So this is a process that will certainly help you in that. So I would recommend joining as often as you can in these webcasts, or participating in as actively as you can. So that will help you. Yes, so Hindu gods. Yes, I assumed you were talking about Hindu gods. And as it turns out, actually there was a interview that I just did with Mary Rodwell. You may want to watch it on our YouTube channel. And she told me about this child who is incredibly gifted, and he or she, I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl at the moment, but he or she was talking about how all the Hindu gods are actually extraterrestrial, multidimensional beings. They were not actual gods. And this is archaeology starting to show this too. So I think, in your lifetimes, or certainly in the next 50 to 100 years or less, we are going to start seeing in our mainstream awareness that a lot of these gods were just more advanced beings, but they were not Source God. They were not of that level. They were just advanced, either terrestrial or extraterrestrial beings. And certainly human beings, even in our past history in ancient times, were more advanced than they are today. So a human being 12,000, 20,000 years ago, you might perceive of a god as a god today, much as a lot of the Hindu gods. So it was a different time then, and that's what a lot of these gods are. Okay, so let's do the energy transfer now. We went a lot longer with the questions than I thought we would, which is great. And I'll explain the process. So, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So the energy transfer is a two-part process, and as I said earlier, I'm going to ask you to send your density to me, and don't worry, no harm will come to me in the process. I've been doing this for many years, and I'm well aware of my ability to do this, and so I want you to feel comfortable sending that density to me during the energy transfer. And if you'd like, some people are visual, and if you are, you can visually see that energy density leaving your body through the top of your head and send it to mine. And just keep doing that until I finish the process and ask you to open your eyes. If you don't want to do that, you can just simply sit there with the intention to do that. And as the earlier question, can you watch the video and repeat the process? You certainly can. And the reason is because it's not my conscious self that is facilitating this. It is a higher dimensional collective of beings that uses this physical body as a conduit for this energy. So anytime you set the intention to do it while watching this video or recording of energy transfers that I've done online, you can facilitate that process because they are aware of your intention. So right now, you can just simply hold the intention, and that's enough. But if you want to be more actively participant by visualizing, you can certainly do that. If you want to think about any particular thing in your life that's causing you negative emotions or difficulty, such as the curses or the entity attachments that were mentioned earlier, you can certainly do that and visualize sending those things to me. That's perfectly all right. But just simply holding the intention is fine. We've been doing this for many years in person here in my local area, and we know that you can't do it wrong. Every single person we've been able to see the change in the energy fields from the process, even if they had no idea what they were doing. So don't worry about doing it wrong. By your being here, there is the intention for you to participate. So it will work. And so at the same time that happens, I'm going to be sending a white light to your heart centers. And that will be to raise your consciousness and increase your vibration and make some adjustments to your multidimensional genetics. And also, in the energy that's being sent to you, there are many different layers of information. And some of that information will cause you to become aware of your gifts and abilities. And you may start, so you may consider it as you're downloading an entire library of universal vibrational information, which your mental, intellectual mind cannot interpret all in one sitting. So what will happen is over the course of the next days, weeks, months, years, you will start to translate that information into understanding, which will express in your life. So there's a lot of vibrational information that is coming to you as well that you'll be able to use and will change your awareness of your universe and your life and gifts, abilities, those kind of things. So that's also part of the process. So it's really designed to lift this weight that you're carrying and also give you the tools you need to step out into the world and to do bigger things than what you came here to do. So so that's generally the process. So let's do that now, and then if there are any last minute questions afterward, I'd be happy to take those. We're going to go for about 10 minutes. I typically play a little music in the background just to give us something to listen to. I'll be playing Mark Romero, which I don't know, some of you may be familiar. Mark Romero's music. He's a very high vibrational musician. You may want to check out his music on markromeromusic.com. And so I'll be playing some of his music because it's a very good way for us to do this work. So I'd like you to close your eyes and relax and breathe comfortably. And if you're sitting or lying down, whatever is most comfortable for you. And if you're in a position right now where you can't actively participate, maybe you're at work or you're driving, that's okay. The energy transfer will still work regardless of that. But it's helpful if you can relax just so you can be more conscious of what you're doing. So I want you to think about anything in your life that's causing you stress or negative emotions, or just simply say a prayer to your higher self or whoever you prefer to pray to, and ask that any karma or negative or dense energy be released to me today. And you can visualize that if you'd like as a dark cloud leaving the top of your head and send it to mind. And keep doing that until I ask you to open your eyes. At the same time, I'll be sending a white light to your heart center. And you can visualize that too if you'd like, but it's not necessary. So I'm going to be silent now for about 10 minutes and play a little music, and I'll ask you to open your eyes when we're done. And as I said, you may, if you're energy sensitive, have felt something, some sort of energetic sensation or temperature change or heaviness in your head. And if it's possible for you to rest and relax for the rest of the day, then that would be great. Not necessary, but many people do experience changes in their energy for the day or a couple of days afterward. In some cases, more tiredness and need to sleep. And in rare cases, the opposite extreme where they have so much energy they can't sleep. But whatever you experience, try to just be present with that and allow that to process. It's just what's happened is your multidimensional vibrational body has gone through a significant change, and your three-dimensional experience, physical body, will take a little time to adjust, and that adjustment sometimes creates a little bit of discomfort, such as more tiredness or extra energy in some cases, or heaviness in your head or things like that. So all it is that transition as the three-dimensional physical body catches up to the changes in your multidimensional. So just be patient with that. Everyone's a little bit different. And if you've done this with me many times, then you probably won't have any of those sensations at all, because you will adjust a lot quicker. The more developed you are spiritually, the more quickly you adjust to changes in your vibrational body. Usually negative energy is supposed to be sent out through the feet. Why the head this time? Actually, it's funny. You're the first person who's ever asked me that question. It's a valid question, though, because that is very commonplace, right? Well, and probably for everybody else in every other practice, you should follow whatever they teach. If it's through the bottom of the feet, then that's perfectly fine. In my case, that's just the way that I intended for it to work and that I was directed for it to work, but it doesn't really matter. It's just simply a visualization. The collective consciousness that is working through this physical body is pulling the density from you. So even if you did nothing but just sit there, just by your participation and the intention to be here, that density will be removed. And as I said earlier, all throughout my life, in places where I've been, even before I was conscious that I was doing this, the energy transfer process has been happening with people who were consciously unaware of it happening. So in their cases, they had no awareness and I had no awareness, but this collective was facilitating it nonetheless, removing that density. So it doesn't really matter how you picture it. If you want to picture it coming out of your feet, that's perfectly all right. And whatever works best for you. It's just a visualization that I've used for a number of years because it made sense for me in my process to do that. Okay, and so let's see what else we got here. Okay, lots of comments. Thank you for all of that. Huge energy release. You're welcome. And lots of heat. Thank you so much. Amazing. Felt density moving through my body, and then a feeling of bliss. A feeling of bliss is quite common. If you didn't experience that, don't worry. No matter what you felt or didn't feel, the process will still have worked. Everybody just has a different sensation of it. Lightheaded and a lot of density releasing. I like to fill myself with light right after this release, and then that's perfect too. So good. Lightheadedness and tingly. Yeah, perfect. So all of those are very common. I hear that a lot at our physical events and when we do these virtually. So those are all very common sensations. And if, like I said, if you didn't feel anything at all, it doesn't matter. The effect will still have been there. And we know that because we've done events physically and been able to see the energy fields of the people who were in the audience. And even those who don't feel anything still had changes in their energy field. So just keep doing this as often as you can. Come to as many webcasts as you can. And, if you can supplement in between these webcasts by watching YouTube videos of the energy transfer, then do that. Or even just watch my show. The energy is present in my voice. Or if you are ready for something more advanced, and join the advanced energy transfer program, and you can accelerate your growth a little bit faster. And all the proceeds for everything that you pay for, that things like that, will go through into our organization to support our many projects and many amazing things that we're doing that will be coming down the line in the years ahead, or come to our expo, or any number of things. So if you'd like to come see me in person, I do events in Michigan in the United States, or get in touch with us if you'd like me to come out to your area. I'd be happy to do events local to you if you'd be willing to help to organize that. Or come join us at our expo. We have one coming up this November 10th, 11th, and 12th, and there'll be lots of amazing people there, including I'll be doing energy transfers all throughout the weekend as well. So and we have many other amazing projects coming down the line, including a kids' school and lots of things. So if you'd like to contribute to us in any way, join our team, or just keep participating in these events in whatever way you can help, we appreciate that, and will help us to do what we're trying to do in the world as well. So thank you for joining, and I will see you all next month.